Have you ever seen the Shadow Man?
My second encounter with the Shadow Man happened in the early 90s. My parents had just finished building an addition to their 150-year-old house, doubling its size, which meant that Andy and I were going to get our own separate bedrooms. This was exciting. We both wanted and needed our own space. Yet, deep down inside, I was terrified. I hadn't slept alone in a room before. I've always had Andy nearby. I was frightened by the fact I was going to have my own bedroom. I was frightened of being alone. Then this little voice inside me said, "Toughen up, Buttercup. You got this." So, I put on my tough face while this anxious war waged inside of me. I started high school in 93, 94. I was just 14 years old. This experience happened at the beginning of high school, in my grade 9 year. Now, if late grade school wasn't bad enough, with the girls in my class picking on the shy, pimple-faced kid, high school. I didn't want to go. I was timid, shy, no self-confidence whatsoever. Ignorance was bliss. I hated conflict. I hated competition. Now, I was forced, pushed, and thrown into a pit of teenaged hormonal wolves, all looking for a popular vote, climbing each other's backs using knives as pickaxes to get to the top. The next 4 years would be a brutal mess for me. Internally, I struggled with finding my way, but I endured. I never battled alone, and I always had my posse. High five, Drumbo Posse. You know who you are. So, like many, I hated high school. I tried to keep my head down for most of it. The early years were the hardest. Just trying to find a place or a groove was hard. I mean, who knows themselves at 14? Who knows what they want or what they're looking for? I sure didn't. Still don't. I struggled, and it showed. I wore a dark undershirt these few years, tormented by stress, anxiety, bullying, hormonal changes, keeping up with friends, classmates, all reaching for the top, wondering if I'd ever find love or peace or happiness, and all with no self-confidence, no self-esteem, no weapons to use to compete with the rat race society was setting up for me. It doesn't surprise me that I began walking down a dark path. I felt like happiness was hard to come by. I felt like it came in very small, short bursts of enthusiasm. Quick bursts of excitement. Not like it did when I was a kid, Back when I had tons of energy and everything was new, exciting. You could pick happiness off of a tree. Everything sort of glittered. I think things changed after that night with Mr. T. After that, the world didn't glitter as much anymore. Slowly, over time, the light of the world got a little dimmer. It was as though happiness was only found when I was alone, in my room, silently listening to my music or singing and playing my guitar. It became my safe place, my sanctuary. So, in a sense, the bedroom was a double-edged sword situation for me. I love spending time in my new bedroom. The freedom to be alone and just be. I was far away from school, the stress, the anxiety, far from shitty kids, and didn't have to worry about competing with anyone. I just did me. It allowed me a place of light when the world seemed so dark. That is, until it literally got dark. The night always stole my safety. Andy and I were lucky enough to have these bedrooms back to back. I knew he was close by. Yet still, I struggled with the night. I struggled with that room. As bright and beautiful as the new rooms were, I feared what lingered when the lights went out. This night wasn't any different than any other night. The biggest difference now was that I had this little red wagon full of stress and fear and anxiety that I was dragging around behind me, filled with the pressure of high school and just trying to find my way. I also had my fear of the dark. I believe this combination of fear and stress triggered my next encounter with the Shadow Man, leading me, eventually, to an even darker, sinister place, with more encounters. I kept a small light in my room and left it on while I slept. It kept the room sorta half lit. It was easy to see everything and still dark enough to sleep. Picking up from past experience, night lights became my new anointed weapon. With my blankets as armor, I now had enough protection to at least keep me safe throughout the night. Or so I thought. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of 3 soft, subtle knocks on my door and a shakily fearful whisper in my ear. Andy, are you awake? My eyes quickly pinged open on the third knock. The whisper, as though it was right in my ear. I could almost feel the breath on my neck, and I could feel the fear in its voice. My heart was beating like a jackhammer. I was frozen in fear, lying there, staring at the ceiling, trying to compute everything that was happening in just fractions of seconds. I had my blankets pulled right up to my ears, lying there paralyzed in fear. My first instinct was to quickly close my eyes. So I did. This was also a mistake. The moment my eyes closed, it petrified me completely. Stone cold, unable to move. I felt like I had been dropped into that cold tub of icy water again. I was chilled from head to toe, tingling from head to foot, like a buzzing sensation. It was electrifying. I could feel surges up my spine, into the base of my neck, and shooting down my arms. In what felt like a few short minutes, the reality, a few seconds, the sensations began to disappear, and the aftermath left me feeling completely paralyzed and unable to move. Unable to open my eyes or speak. It was like I was frozen in ice. And I couldn't feel my body. Only this weight on my chest and shoulders. It was the sensation of pressing, like being held down. And it made it hard to breathe. Of course, my fear kicked into overdrive. That steadfast fear. And all I wanted to do was scream. I tried, with all my might, to press through the fear and scream. But my body wouldn't let me. Something wouldn't let me. I remembered the last time this happened to me. The night with Mr. T. I remembered what it felt like to wiggle free. Slowly focusing my thoughts on small appendages, like toes or fingers, trying to get them to move. Ironically, one of the easiest things to break free is the eyes. The one thing I didn't want to open. Yet I knew if I did, I knew deep down inside, if I did, if I just opened my eyes, I would be free. But the thought of opening them to something sinister, staring back at me, made me even more uncomfortable. Even opening the eyes was difficult. And much like my last encounter, the release of my eyes felt as though something let me open them. Like something clicked and my eyes just broke free. At this moment, this instant, I had this sense of something on top of me. I knew if I'd opened my eyes, I was going to witness something. This sudden feeling of release on my eyelids helped to confirm it. Whatever it was, it wanted me to see it. It wanted me to know it was there. So, bravely, I slowly opened them. Just a crack. Just enough to see past my eyelashes. I remember the feeling of terror, as though I was being faced with some sort of ghoul or zombified version of Michael Jackson. When my eyes fully opened, my realization was correct. On top of me, hovering above me, holding me down and staring straight at me was the shape of a human, the form of a human, made of waves upon waves of deep black smoke, swirling and spiraling around me. In its eyes, the same slight orange-red glow. The same eyes I had seen so many years ago. The same eyes that torment my dreams. At this moment, in this instant, in the instant my eyes opened, the instant that I saw the entity, that instance, I was fully released. My body set completely free, and the entity disappeared. So I screamed to high hell and sat straight up in my bed, to a half-lit room thickened by the energy of a dark, relentless entity, one that seemingly had been following me for years. The room felt beefy with bad juju. It still had this eerie glow to it that I can't describe. I felt it, like I was in water, like I was in a pool. This sort of floating sensation that makes you feel disembodied. I lied back down, pulled my blankets up to my ears, and closed my eyes to try to sleep. But the room was too thick. I lied there feeling like something was right at the edge of my bed, just staring at me. Yet nothing was there. I had this eerie feeling of knowingness, like you just know something is there. Yet you can't see or hear it to prove it. You just know because you feel it. So I couldn't sleep in my bed. There was no way. I just knew it was going to keep me awake all night. I convinced myself to get out of my bed, packed as much fear into my pocket as I could, and I left my room and headed to the bedroom door next to mine. I was way too afraid to stay in that room. It felt sort of toxic. In my heightened fear state, I stood at Andy's doorway, contemplating waking him. In the mere half a second it took to make the decision, a flood of emotion ran through me. I knew I needed another to help me confront that fear, and my tag team partner was on the other side of that door. So I knocked 3 times, subtly and softly. And fearfully, I whispered through the door, "Andy, are you awake?"